Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here, and welcome to episode 46 of Secret Sauce, the Restaurant Marketing Podcast, part 1 of 7 ways to increase takeout orders for your restaurant.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hey everyone, so welcome back. First week in the office after returning from my trip to the NRA show in Chicago, which was epic, and I spent a week in Taipei, which is a really great foodie city in Taiwan, for Computex, which is a technology show. So I went there to partially look at the technology, also to have a look at, Taiwanese cuisine. There's lots of really exciting things that are going on there from a restaurant point of view. Very strong street vendor type scene. And as you know, Michelin awarded their first 1 star to a Singaporean street food hawker kind of restaurant. Street food, I think, there's so much that you can take out of it. Too many people look at it and just say, well, that's just street food. I think there's a lot to look at it from, from a process point of view, from a marketing point of view, from a product point of view. There's a lot of things that's really interesting on the street food scene. So we're probably going to do a podcast around that. We're also going to wrap up some of the technology that we saw at Computex. Now, Computex is a general IT show. And I've been there in the past with my IT hat on. This time I was going there really to have a look at some of the things from a restaurant point of view, the kind of things that are going to be new and going to become increasingly important for small restaurant owners just like you. We saw drones, of course, they're going to be making they're going to become increasingly important from a delivery point of view. POS systems, just like Chicago, there was 101 POS systems. 3D printing, sugar, chocolate. People are printing with some fairly interesting things, and I think that there's a lot of work there that's being done. It's really just waiting for someone with a little bit of innovation, a little bit of creativity to start coming up with some things that I think are going to really start getting them a lot of public relations as they achieve that first mover advantage with the 3D printing type area. Virtual reality, that's coming a long, long way, and it's moving really quite rapidly. And I'm looking to talk to restaurants about what they're doing from a virtual reality point of view and augmented reality, because I think that it's a very interesting space, particularly when you look at it from a multi-sensory dining point of view, about what it is that you can do with virtual reality and how you can create an experience that's worth so much more for your guests than just, the price of the food that you're preparing for them. Artificial intelligence and big data, that was a really big part of the show as well. And I think this is really exciting, and it's really important for us at Marketing for Restaurants, because this is what we're trying to do for small restaurants. Small restaurants, mom and pop type restaurants, and small chains as well, traditionally don't have enough data to be able to get the kind of insights into big data that a restaurant chain, someone like a McDonald's or a Domino's, is able to, because they'll have millions of data points that they can go trawling through and working out, what kind of customers like this or why do customers buy that. What we're doing at Marketing for Restaurants, of course, is aggregating all of the data we get, and we would probably have close to 10 million data points now in our databases from restaurant marketing and online orders and restaurant bookings. And then we run queries over that so that we can tell our customers what's working and what isn't in restaurant marketing. So there was a lot of insight there. So we'll do a podcast around the food that we got in Taipei and some of the things that we saw. I think that would be interesting as well. But today we're here to talk about takeout. Takeout is becoming an increasingly important part of our customers' revenue as we get more and more customers who are using the free restaurant online ordering system. So we've spent a lot more time really trying to understand online ordering, because it's a very, very interesting space, and a lot of small independent restaurants aren't served well by their online ordering providers. So we're talking here people like Menulog, Grubhub, Eat Now, Just Eat, Delivery Hero, Food Panda. because those guys are business to consumer and they're sort of like trying to sit in between you, charge a commission, steal the email addresses, all of that sort of stuff. But it's very interesting when you start to think about online ordering as a revenue stream within a restaurant, because there's some things that you're going to want to do that you can't actually do now. And this is why I think that Frollo, the free restaurant online ordering system that we built, this is why it's becoming increasingly popular. And some months we are growing order volume by 50%. And that's because our customers are starting to get more orders, as well as we are seeing more and more restaurants come on board because they're looking to cut the commissions and to build their databases. Now, so we're going to start with a really simple question. Why do restaurants do takeout? And I think that there are two very important reasons why you want to be thinking about takeout. Firstly, it breaks the bottleneck of tables to revenue. So if you have, let's just say that you've got 100 seats in your restaurant and you're only going to turn them once. So, you offer a long degustation menu. You're only going to turn the tables once. And if you charge a maximum of $100, for argument's sake, the most money that you can ever make in a night is $10,000. That is every table, every seat paid for, so if you've got no-shows, you've got issues with that, did you prepay, all of those sort of things. But realistically, there's not a whole heap of variability in there. Takeout breaks the linkage between the number of tables you've got, the number of times you turn those tables, and you might turn them twice. If it's twice, then there's only so many that you can do. You've got to, there's only so many plates that you've got. How often do they get cleaned? There's only so many front of house team. There's a whole heap of issues. So you have a bottleneck, which is the number of tables that you've got. Online ordering breaks that. So what it does then is it moves that. By breaking that linkage, you now can cook as much food as the kitchen can prepare. So you're moving the bottleneck from front of house into back of house, which is more efficient because you might be able to process X amount through front of house, through the tables. If you've got spare capacity in the kitchen, then you can do Y amount of extra revenue. And that revenue is more important to you because it's not a part of your lease. Your lease should be split up realistically by the number of tables that you've got. It's only your kitchen that should be paying lease when you think about it, the way that you're accounting for it on takeout and pick-up orders. Now, the profitability of your online ordering, that's really driven by things like the fact that there's very little front-of-house work that needs to be done. There is, you're not going to be cleaning tablecloths. You're not going to have any of those sort of costs associated with the table or the service required for the table. So a takeout order is often higher profit than the same volume coming through from a table. So it's quite high margin. And in the old days, people used to do a 10% discount for takeout to try and drive a little bit more of the orders, that weren't going to be eat in. That's the first reason that people do it. Now, the second reason that people do it, and probably the more important reason, is what problem do you solve in your restaurant? Okay, because if I have to, let's just picture the process for me on a Friday night to go out to a restaurant. Do I need to think about a babysitter? Do I need to have an argument with my beautiful wife, Tina, about who's going to be the designated driver? Because I might like to have 2 or 3 beers. It's been a big week. I've worked really hard. She's worked really hard as well. Who do we think, between the two of us, who will we agree on is going to deserve more to have a drink, a couple of drinks of red with their meal, and who is going to be the designated driver? That's one of the problems. Do we need to organise a babysitter? Yes or no? Are we going to be taking the kids? Are the kids going to behave themselves? Are we going to have conversations with the kids about why are you on your iPad, or why aren't you on your iPad? Why are you being loud and running around? What are the our kids are usually pretty well behaved when it goes to restaurants, but the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. We often, in fact, can't think of the last time that we cooked food on a Friday night, because Friday night, it's the end of the week, unless of course you're working the weekend, which I often do, but it's the end of the week. It's the end of the traditional work week for most people. So we look forward to the Friday night and we will then order some food in. And really the only discussion is it going to be Chinese, Thai or Indian? And I always push for Indian because that's my favourite cuisine. The product that you are shipping then is convenience and the ability to have, Tina and I will have a bottle of red between us, plus or minus pre-drinks, usually not too many. We don't want to go berserk. And so we wouldn't be able to drive home if we did that. The kids will share in it and then they will either watch something all together as a family or the kids will bomb burst upstairs and they'll watch their own Netflix. That is the product that we purchase. And interestingly enough, like I've said that we do it every Friday. This is a habit. This is a habit for us. Friday night is takeout night. And usually it is delivery. Sunday night is our secondary, takeout night if we have it. And we don't do it every Sunday night. So it's usually every second or third Sunday night. More likely to be something like fish and chips. More likely that I'll go out and pick it up. So takeout, one, it's more profitable. Online orders are in general more profitable, and B, you're providing a different product. Going out is not on the cards. If I had the choice of going out or not going out on a Friday night, I would probably choose, I'll just cook something up, and it would be a scratch tea, nothing overly exciting, because I just want to sit down and relax and literally Netflix and chill. And the food, obviously, is an important part of that. And by getting, a really hot vindaloo, I can enjoy it. I can eat the food that I like. I can drink the wine that I want with it. And I can relax knowing that, the night's taken care for me. So it sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty exciting. Everyone should be on online ordering. So what are the problems with it? Why doesn't everyone do it? What are some of the issues that restaurants have in an online ordering type environment? The first thing is that logistics. So from a kitchen point of view, logistics normally is the synchronization of meals. So you've got 4 people who've ordered 4 different mains and you want those 4 to come out at exactly the same time or as close to, and they're all going to be as close to just coming out of the kitchen as possible. So nothing's going to be sitting there for 15 minutes. Now, the head chef, that's his job to perform that ballet. That ballet just got a whole lot more complicated because now you're relying on a delivery driver. Interesting. And then the delivery driver is going to take the food that you have spent all that time getting the right produce, sourcing the right produce, procuring it, warehousing it, then processing it for a just-in-time type process, then it goes out into a delivery driver and who knows what he's going to be doing with that. So the first thing is that you've got the logistics issue of the timing. The second thing is packaging, and packaging is absolutely critical when it comes to delivery and in some respects pickup, because don't forget, when we're doing pickup, then I'm effectively doing the delivery myself. That's the process that I'm going to do. The food that you have put all of that love, care and attention into is then going to be unwrapped, unpacked by me or delivered by a delivery driver. What is that food going to look like? How is it going to handle that transit? And that's a really big question that far too many people don't spend enough time thinking about, which means that the experience of the customer at the end of it is often not as good as it could be. Now, obviously, there's people like Foodora, Deliveroo, and Uber Eats who they take away the logistics issue. You don't have to worry about a delivery driver not being available, and you don't have to worry about scaling delivery drivers because they answer that part of the problem for you. Now, of course, it depends on the kind of experience that you have with your preferred delivery driver. And the other thing that's quite good about it is that these guys provide a marketing channel for you. So they will do the marketing of your restaurant on your behalf. Now, the big issue with this, of course, is that 1, they charge 35%. And 2, you don't get the customer's email addresses. So if you don't get the customer's email address, then they're not really your customer. You can't remarket to them. You can't target them again unless you're going to do something, a little bit out of the box, include a coupon in the bag, include a flyer, get them to order directly. That is still going to leave you with the logistics problem. And so we're going to delve a little bit more into this logistics problem because I think it is absolutely fundamental to the operation, revenue, and profitability of so many restaurants out there. Before we get into that, though, we'll talk about some interesting numbers. The first one is that the average takeout order is $48. Now, this is done over a whole heap of orders that we have done on behalf of our customers, so using Frollo. It's a little bit off because I haven't adjusted for currency differences. So we've got US customers, New Zealand customers, we've got a few other countries in there as well. So it's a little bit off. But in general, I think, you're pretty safe with that. One of the things that we're going to be looking to do is actually break down the differences by cuisine. I think that would be really interesting to know. Anecdotally, cuisines like Thai tend to have a lower average order value than cuisines like Indian. I'm not sure why that is. One of the things that we do when we order Indian is that we will order way too much for one meal. We will often have Indian as a meal sort of midweek. So it sits in the fridge for like 4 or 5 days. Now, what happens to a butter chicken or a chicken vindaloo when it sits in the fridge for 4 or 5 days? It just sits there and gets better, really, doesn't it? Thai, maybe not so much. Maybe that's one of the reasons that Thai is less likely to be one of those cuisines that has a higher average value for a transaction. Now, the next interesting figure is the one that I find absolutely fascinating is the spread between the number of orders that a restaurant takes. So some restaurants, regardless of the system, we talk to restaurants about, that are using Just Eat or Menu Log about order volumes, and some of them will say, well, we get one a week. Others are doing north of $2,000 a week in orders. There are some really, really big differences here. I mean, if you compare a restaurant that's doing $2,000 a week in takeout, they're looking at doing an extra $100,000 in revenue for the restaurant. Now, for a small mom and pop type restaurant, that would have to be, I think, the difference between being, break even to profitable as opposed to unprofitable, if not very unprofitable. And these are one of the reasons why I think so many restaurants churn so often, is that people aren't able to get the profitability there, and online ordering is a really easy way of being able to do that. And you can see that. You can see that just through the order volume that some people are getting. And you think, wow, these guys are running really successful restaurants. You can see that based on the number of orders that they've got coming through. So already we've got a couple of things that you want to be starting to think about. Are you going to do pickup only? And the interesting thing about pickup only is that it means that you don't have to have delivery drivers. You don't have to worry about that entire logistics part. How do you then start to, build a pickup only business? Now, we're starting to see delivery only businesses. We're working with a restaurant that is delivery only, straight up delivery only. No storefront, no dine in, no pickup, delivery only. You get some significant benefits from that. You've got a business only focused on the kitchen. That's the one thing. So what they've been able to do is to have a very competitive price, source really, really good ingredients, work with chefs, so people who are actually got strong talents in the kitchen, not 16-year-olds, cooking pizzas, which is what a lot of the large chains do. So they're able to produce a great product, and they're very clear. They've segmented their market very like a laser. They want people who want the pizza to be delivered to them. So this is an interesting thing, and I think this is the great thing about restaurants in general, online ordering in particular. There's lots of ways that you can skin this cat. You've got people who are doing pickup only, you've got people who are doing delivery only, and then you've got people who are doing a combination of both. You've got restaurants who are doing their own deliveries, and you've got restaurants who are relying on Uber Eats to do it. Lots of ways that you can work this. So the next thing that you want to start thinking about is, what is the product that you are going to offer through online ordering? Okay, now when someone signs up for the free restaurant online ordering system, for some people will enter the menu for them. And the thing that's absolutely amazing is that 9 times out of 10, the takeout menu is exactly the same as the dine-in menu. Okay, now from my point of view, I see a couple of problems with that. Firstly, you're working off a menu that is dine-in, and often there's been no menu engineering whatsoever in the menu. And I can't stress this enough. You need to engineer your menu. What are the things that are high margin, and how do you signify that to your customers so that they are more likely to order your high margin products? You don't want to get an online order for $100 of product that you're shipping out at marginal value. You want to have at least some items in there that you're making really, really good money on. Too many people don't cost their menus. Too many people don't think about their menus. Too many people have a menu that's got 120 items on it. Now, you won't have costed 120 items, and most of the time, when I see a menu with 120 items on, all it is a list of items. There's very little drawing to, you want to have one of these pizzas, or, this is the item that you want to have a listen to what this is like. This would be awesome. Have a look at the picture. Wow, you want to order this, don't you? No, it's just like, come and eat at our restaurant. We've got a whole heap of crazy crap on the menu. Pick one. It doesn't really matter to us. We don't even know what we make on individual items. That's not a recipe for success. The first thing is, engineer your menu, cost it out, start working out, which are the cash cows, which are the stars, which ones are the dogs that you should be getting rid of. That's the first thing. Now, the second question is, how well is that item going to travel? And I always find this really interesting because, my family will order something and I'm just thinking, you know what, they're going to be going, oh God, why did he order that? It's just going to look awful when it gets there. And you see it time and time and time again. I've seen it. There was a place that delivered a steak once and it came in a styrofoam box, a steak by itself. And nothing says that you've made a mistake in ordering something than getting a steak in a styrofoam box. That's just madness. How are you going to deliver that steak? How are you going to make it look appealing? Now, they're the kind of things that you want to be thinking about. What is it going to travel like? How long is it going to be in the car for? What temperature is it going to be there when it gets to the customer? And what is it going to look like? How can you make that? What is the packaging that you're going to have to enable it to travel well so that it gets to me and I go, oh, wow, look at this. This looks really tasty and exciting, as opposed to, oh, God, what a mess this is. Customers are concerned about this. I saw it on someone's Facebook. It looked like, oh, wow, this looks like it was delivered via a roller coaster. And, it did. It looked pretty mixed up Mother Goose. The restaurant did the right thing and they said, oh, look, really sorry, it wasn't delivered by our superhero team. We'll get in contact with you and we'll sort it out for you. Now, they're the kind of things that you want. But what is there that you can do from a packaging point of view that means that your food is going to get there in a better way? And so from an Indian food point of view, I know some of the local Indian restaurants, they'll just have them, in the normal little boxes that you get. Okay, that's fine. That's one thing. The one that we use at the moment, when we use them predominantly because they do an awesome vindaloo, they actually wrap it in Glad wrap. That gets around time and time and time again. We've taken the boxes out of the bag and there's either vindaloo or butter chicken everywhere because it hasn't been sealed tightly. What are the little things that you can do to make that work a lot better for your customers? Do you have online ordering only specials? Now, this is one of those things. If you're wanting to increase your online ordering numbers, do you have an online only offer? This is one of you think about it, in your marketing, you want to drive people's behaviors. And I think the greatest example of this is I was lucky enough to get some points upgrades with Qantas when I was flying, both to Chicago and to Taipei. So Qantas has got a really tough job. They're meant to be providing business class grade food in, virtually no kitchen, like it's just a little tiny galley. And they're doing that at 30,000 feet. So they've got limited staff, limited equipment, and limited time to be able to do that. So it's all very complicated and messy. One of the things that they don't want to do is to disappoint any of their passengers by saying, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have that available. So what they want to do is drive people to order their meal online before they get on the plane. That way they've got a much, much better idea of how many meals they're going to need. Because don't forget, they don't have, once they're out of something, they're out of something. They can't just go down the street and get a couple more steaks. That's it. All over Red Rover, you're not going to get the meal that you wanted. So, of course, they want people to order online. The trick that they use to do that is they have online-only items that you can order. And usually they're towards the top of the pack from my point of view as the items that you would want to get. This is one of the ways that they can increase the percentage of people who are ordering online, which decreases the amount of wastage that they have. Because you think about it, they don't want to disappoint their passengers. So they have a certain number that they'll have. That, you know, do they take extras, or do they know that they're going to have a certain number of passengers who are going to be disappointed because they didn't guess right as to who was going to order the chicken as opposed to the beef? One of the big dramas that they've got. So an online-only special, which means that they're then able to increase the number of customers who are pre-ordering, which means that they've got a much better idea of the number of meals that they're going to need and the types of meals that they're going to need on each flight. This is something that very few restaurants are doing, is an online-only special. And I think it's one of the things that a lot of people could think about, because it's going to drive that online ordering component of their business. And it's not really too hard to do that. You could be using your online ordering special as, you know, your kind of meal of the day, the daily special. There's no reason why you can't go in and edit that and just say, I wonder how many people would order this. I wonder how many people would order that. Then on Facebook, you say, order online for our special. This week it's going to be this. This is a great way of testing and adjusting what it is that your customers want. Because don't forget, you may have different customers. You may have customers who only order online. You may have customers who only order dine-in. How do you play with that? How do you try and get the maximum benefit from that? This is one of the things that you can do to start thinking about that process. Now, the next thing is the packaging. So I've already talked about, when we get food, whether it's Chinese, Thai, or Indian, generally it comes in a white plastic bag. What is there that you can do? And you'll notice, Uber, they put a little bit more effort in there. They're trying to build a brand. So, of course, it's got Uber Eats on it. And this is one of the things that's a little bit of a problem. We want to be building your brand, not somebody else's. So would it be worthwhile getting some paper bags printed up with that information in it? I find it really interesting, but one of the old-fashioned marketing things that used to happen all the time was that you would get the menu in the bag. Now, you can do that. That's one of the things that you can do, and I think it's a good idea to do that, particularly if you've got people who are more comfortable placing the order on the phone. Now, and I know that people are saying, well, I don't want the phone ringing all the time with orders because we're busy. Well, would you prefer to get the order, or would you prefer to them to ring someone else with their order? And I think that there is still a large proportion of people who would prefer to place their orders by phone. Have a think about that. The other thing that you could be doing is putting in an offer. Use this coupon in the month of July, and we'll give you, are we going to discount? Are we going to value add? Is it going to be a free bottle of this? Is it going to be a free entree, a free appetizer? What is it that you want to put in there as a way of ensuring that the customer, because what you got to remember, the mathematics of restaurant profitability are pretty simple. It's the number of customers you've got, the number of times that they purchase from you, the amount that they purchase, and your profit margin. Just go thinking, we talked about these in the Levers of Profitability podcast and how you can change that. This is one of the reasons that you can give them to order. Get a short run of coupons done. Hand them out to all of your dine-in customers as they're leaving. We hope you had a good meal. We'd like you to offer you this for online ordering. One of the things that we're seeing work really successfully is that customers who are using Just Eat or Menulog, they will slip one of these coupons in there, and if they're using Frollo, the free restaurant online ordering system, order direct from the restaurant and save, and then they're having an offer in there as well. And they're one of the things that can work quite well to help drive customer retention. And of course, if they order from Frollo, then you get the email address. So we've talked about the product that you're going to ship. What is it that the customers want? What is your online ordering menu made up of? And we've talked about packaging. I think that there's an interesting little part of the conversation to be had in between those two things. So the product and the packaging, the product packaging or packaging of the product. And the thing that really stands out to me was when I was in Chicago, and I spoke about this in the NRA podcast, Giordano's Pizza, they have an Italian deep dish pie. So if you're in Australia, it looked like a big meat pie, but it had pizza topping on top of it, inside it. Now, that was designed for delivery or pickup. That had its own crusty packaging of goodness wrapped around the product. And I think there's probably more work that can be done when we think about the product that we want to be shipping out to customers, whether we're going to deliver it ourselves or whether they're going to pick it up. They're the kind of things that you can be thinking about, because that product, it just struck me. It was like, oh, wow. Like, and I was eating it. It was eat-in for me. But I thought, wow, this is perfect to ship to a customer. How can you package when the package is edible? And obviously, you're not going to ship it. That's going to go into a box as well. But that's going to travel a whole lot better than your generic pizza that's going to have, the box gets squashed and then you lift up the lid and the lid's covered in pizza toppings. That wouldn't happen with this. The top might be a little bit crushed, but, that's fine. It's still going to be in a really good condition as opposed to an open pizza. Thinking about that, there's probably a lot more. It makes you think, a pie would be the perfect delivery business. Now, no one's really doing that, I don't think. But yeah, what else is there that you can do? Now, one of the things that I want to do is to transition to have a bit of a discussion about some of the things that Domino's Pizza do. So they actually cook food and they deliver it and get people to take out. So I think it's really instructive, and of course they do it on a very successful and a very large scale. We can argue about the quality of the food, but at the end of the day, they're very successful at what they do. So I think it's really worthwhile having a bit of a discussion about what it is that they do. But before we get into that, I want to talk about something, a little bit of sad news, and that is that Sam Panoply passed away. Now, you may not have heard of Sam Panoply, but his passing is worthwhile of talking about. Partially, he was a bit of an inventor, quite creative. Now, the really interesting thing about his most famous creation was that the president of Iceland, Johnny Johannesson, actually called for a ban on it. He was Canadian citizen, which called Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, to come out in defence of his creation. And if you haven't worked it out, it was the Hawaiian pizza. So putting pineapple on a ham pizza, he was evidently the guy who created that. And so it was that innovative trial and error kind of story where someone has gone out and thought, I wonder what pineapple would taste like on a pizza. And he created the Hawaiian pizza, which is one of the most famous pizzas in the world. Obviously not that popular in Iceland. However, Justin Trudeau is quite a big fan of it. So sadly, he passed away this week. But I think it's important to give a nod. I know in our family, 3/4 of the people, that is their favourite pizza, is the Hawaiian pizza. So just goes to show, and that was done, a long time ago, over 50 years ago. And initially it wasn't that popular, but as people sort of warmed to the idea of pineapple on a pizza, it became increasingly popular and, as we know, has spread around the world. So an interesting thing, and I think, you've got your traditional Italian pizza. The Hawaiian pizza is the way that this has morphed to adapt to people's changes and taste preferences. So I'll end the podcast there. The second part will come out next week, and we're going to really delve into the mathematics of Domino's Pizza ordering, why they do that, and then how you can do it in your restaurant, because I think that that's the really important part. It's going to enable you to dramatically increase the profitability of your restaurant, particularly when you have a think about the mathematics that sit down behind it and what it is that they do and how they do it. So stay tuned for that one. And apart from that, I hope you have a really busy day. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.